my best friend. That's my best friend.
People who ran away from cops and was successful. What was your story? I did this by accident, I think. Ran a red light, cop pointing the opposite direction but unable to make a U-turn for some reason, lit up and took off to go down to the next light and turn around. I pulled into a gas station right there to wait for him. Next thing I see is the cop fly by me chasing a vehicle that looks exactly like mine. I wasn't going to chase him down to be like, "Excuse me sir, I'm the one you actually want to ticket," so I waited a minute, got back on the road and went to work. I was in cross country, went to a house party. Cops came, everyone scattered and a cop chose me to chase. He couldn't keep up and gave up. Basically same story here. House party in high school for the track team, cops showed up, we all ran. Only person to get in any trouble was the kid who lived there. Parents had to pay a fine. He was grounded most of senior year. Imagine how pissed the cops were when they found out you were the track team. They just want to bust some kids for underage drinking, and you guys are literally trained to run the F away. At a house party out of control in my neighborhood, they started cuffing some of the rowdy rich brats. "Do you know who my father is, pig? You'll be emptying trash cans in jails the rest of your life." When they ran out of cuffs, and started using zip ties. They got some lanky stoner kid tied up, hands behind his back. At some point, the kid suddenly got up from a sitting position, and with his hands still behind his back, cleared a split rail fence, and galloped into an abandoned field with two cops in pursuit. He actually got away. I couldn't believe it. I never saw such an unlikely person sprint so fast with his hands behind his back, like some kind of weird woodland haunt. You encountered the Shaggy of track and field. Smoke a blunt in a rape van with a dog for years of good luck. This is one of the greatest things I have ever read. I got chased by a rather plump officer who got wedged in the separation between two different fences where a stump was. I was speeding like an absolute mother effer on a highway at around 3 a.m. A cop car was going the opposite direction. Saw me and turned on his lights. The highway was divided so he had to go down a little to turn around. I pulled over to wait for him. I was going like 170 in a 110 zone. I wanted to behave well so he didn't take my license. Anyways, he blew right by me. I waited 2 minutes. He didn't come back so I left. Hope the 170 in a 110 is km/h. First time I didn't so much run as stand still. Cops busted a party I was at in high school. A few cop cars parked at the curb in front of the house, and when all of the officers got out they began just chasing down kids. I just stood there. Don't know why but all of the cops just ran past me. I calmly walked to my car, got in and drove home. The second time I was in college, similar situation as the cops showed up to bust the party. Almost everyone was drinking from a keg in the garage. Someone came in and told us all to be quiet because the cops had pulled up. Of course someone just let them in, so a buddy of mine and I crouched down and started making sure our shoes were on tight and tied up. Cops come in the garage just as someone is opening the garage door. We let a few people go ahead of us to occupy the cops waiting just outside the door, then we bolted to the car. Can confirm. Work for a police agency and they have a dog mentality. They chase. If you run, they chase. If you just stand there with that 1,000-yard stare deer get when they're in the road, they can't see you. Just now realized. An officer's vision is like a T-Rex's, based on movement. I was running a 5K and there were these cops directing traffic for us. I thanked them as I ran by, and they said you're welcome. I then ran away from them, and they didn't follow. I had done nothing wrong, and they had a job to do. If you're in the middle of nowhere and know the gravel roads better than the cops do, it's easy to get away. Speeding down a paved highway, met a cop going the other direction. Saw his brake lights as he slowed to turn, so we took the next gravel road we saw. made a turn, killed the lights and coasted into a lake access/loading area. Didn't touch the brakes or open the doors for probably half an hour waiting for him to leave the area. I had 3 cars try to do this to me, except they didn't know the roads and I did. I lost sight of them briefly when went over a hill crest, but when I didn't see them when I came over the hill I figured they all took the next side road, which was a gravel road leading off into the woods, a dead-end gravel road. Sure enough, found all 3 at the dead end. 2 of them had suspended licenses. They didn't give me a hard time, so I just wrote the speeding and suspended license citations. Let them off on the fleeing and eluding charge, and the 2 without valid licenses I let call someone to come get their cars rather than towing them. I got a speeding ticket. Cop could have given me criminal speeding ticket but told me, it's the end of my shift, I don't feel like doing the paperwork, so I'm just going to minus 20 miles per hour off of this ticket. I was about 17 riding with a friend in his car. To preface, this was a very high horsepower car he had. We were on the way home from a car meet. It was late and we were just trying to get home as quick as possible, about 3 a.m. I would say we were cruising at about 90 on the tollway and we saw him too late, but there was a police car sitting right past the on-ramp who threw his lights on before we even passed him. My buddy decides to downshift and just book it. We were lucky because this was a straight portion of road for about 2 miles. We were able to make so much distance from him that we just exited, made a U-turn and pulled into a gas station completely out of sight. That's the only time it's ever happened. I never would have done it myself, but that's what I get for riding shotgun. Was seen by the apartment maintenance guy selling weed. Well, my friend who's a dealer I was driving him around, and he called the cops and tried to block our escape, in a dead-end parking lot, with 1 exit from the lot and only 1 exit from the complex. I rolled down the window and he kept yelling, "I called the police. Stay here, I called the police." I replied, "Look man, I'm sorry, but get the fuck out of the way." Laid on my horn and reversed fast and furious style out of the lot and around the back of the complex. My homie told me to stop the car, grabbed all his bud and all mine, my grinder, and a bong and jumped out to hop a fence. Little did he know, there was barbed wire on the fence. He threw everything over, including the bong, RIP, and climbed, cutting his hands and legs real bad. He had a bad landing on the other side and couldn't find anything but a gram bag in the dark on the other side. Meanwhile, I hauled ass out of the complex and flew through the neighborhood, trying to put distance in my panic. Then I remembered my homie walking around on Xanax and all cut up. I turned around and started calling him, and he said he kept seeing cops drive by and was hid out in a bush by another complex. I picked him up and we drove about 50 miles away and laid low for a few days. That was the last time I drove him to make sales, lol. My friends and I in high school installed kill switches in our cars that turned off every light, including brake lights. We called it stealth mode because in high school that was funny as hell. We would try to get into car chases, with cops or just other drivers on dark nights because we knew the gravel roads and trails super well. Get in a chase, head off-road, hit stealth mode and giggle like children. One of my friends evaded cops on 7 different nights, that was the record. I was 24 hanging out with my friends at a train station. It was late at night and there was no trains. We had a water-filled condom and we were hitting one another with it, when a loudspeaker started shouting at us to leave, stupidly telling me what camera he was looking through. I had the condom, so pretended to jack it off at the camera. About 15 minutes later the voice came back and stupidly informed us that the police were called. We laughed and dicked about some more. After 10 minutes he came back laughing, saying that he can see the police sneaking up the other side of the station to catch us off guard. We look and we see a cop shout, "What the F, you complete moron," so we start pissing ourselves with laughter and run. We go across the tracks and the police chase us. I launch the water-filled condom and it hits the officer. He stops and screams at us. We bolt it up the road and hide in my garage for 15 minutes trying not to wake my street up with laughter.